Okay, recording is live. The recording will include the slides, it'll include me, and it will include the chat. It should be visible and viewable for anyone that registered after the event. I believe it takes just a couple days, 48 hours to process. Um, and if you have any questions or need it, otherwise, you can always send me a message on LinkedIn or for my team on Teams, and I can send you the link. Um, but I'm excited to be here with you guys today. I'm Aquaman for those that know me in the industry as Aquaman. I'm Chris for those that know me in the industry as Chris, and I will respond to either one. This webinar series started as Aquaman and will continue to be so. Um, so everybody, just as you're jumping in, go ahead and just drop where you're listening in from. I'm always excited to see where we get our participants from. I know I already saw India. I know a couple of my team members are in Texas, as well as Seattle, the Seattle area, Washington. But we are going to get going. First up, we have got the history of Boolean. Let me make sure. Is the screen updating? Okay. We've got the history of Boolean, and Boolean searching is based off of the algebraic system of logic created by George Boole. We are not diving into algebra. This is not college level math, but it is based off of uh, algebraic system of logic, which is a really cool system to look into. I studied logic when I was in college, attending Southern Utah University, and it was something that was so mind bending to me to look at how you can break down real world problems and turn them into equations. Likewise, when we're building a Boolean search, we're really just taking words and we're turning them into a formal um, mathematical equation. And so this is what we're looking at is word math. We're not going to be looking at degrees of a triangle. We're not going to feel like the picture in the bottom left there of what am I trying to understand. But it is important to note that it is math based because that is going to come into play later. So first, the main attraction. I'm a big fan of memes. So you're going to see a few memes in here. You can always send me memes. It makes me happy. But this is my favorite that I made. I made this meme in an effort to illustrate how I feel about Boolean. And being the basic, I think most people understand how and functions. Not once you start incorporating the not function in your search, it feels like you're making progress. And then once you realize the capabilities with or, it feels like you're falling back in your seat. So this is the main attraction. This is where we're jumping into. So what do they do? How does Boolean work? You're going to see Boolean manifest in a couple different ways. I've got that over here on the left-hand side of the screen, and you might see it manifest as the addition or plus symbol, or you're going to get the vertical pipe, and not you're going to have uh, the dash subtraction sign, whichever, right? And I've got an illustration or I've got an example under each one that shows you what you're looking at, right? And how it might manifest. If you're in the dating pool and you're looking for someone that is handsome and tall, those are two requirements that you're going to have. And so your Venn diagram on the right is going to show you they have to be both handsome and tall, and where that overlaps, that's what we're looking for, right? Or is they are handsome or tall or both, or is your inclusive search term, and that's why I feel the way that I illustrated with the meme before. Once you realize how inclusive and broad your searches can be, but still be effective, or is your best friend. So if you're handsome or handsome and tall, you would fall within all three categories of the Venn diagram, and then not being manifest as the subtraction sign. You've got handsome and not tall, or you could reverse that, tall and not handsome. But really, what you're saying is these two things probably overlap, or I will see them overlap regularly. But what I'm going to do is only look for one piece of that. Um, Satish, excellent point. Or at least one or more, either or. Great point there. Okay, so this is what we're looking at um, for our fundamental Boolean operators. Next is the backup dancers. If you have not seen this SNL clip, I cannot encourage it enough. It gets me laughing every time. Beyonce and her backup dancers, Justin Timberlake, Andy Samberg, and and Billy there. It's hysterical, but these are the backup dancers of Boolean, right? Is parentheses and quotations. You've got your main operators, and that's going to get you pretty far. You can build some simple searches that are going to do a lot of things. But once you incorporate the backup dancers, you've got a full production. So we're going to look at parentheses and quotations here. And what do they do? So first, I want to illustrate this by using the acronym PEMDAS. This was something that I learned in middle school in my math class as the acronym for parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. Really, it's your order of operations, right? That parentheses come first, exponents come afterwards, and so on. Um, Boolean works very similar. Everything in parentheses has to be handled first. Your exponents, right? Or in Boolean talk, we're now looking at quotation marks, is next, making sure that that becomes a single search term. And then it's going to go left to right in creating your search, right? So the goal of both backup dancers is to create single search terms out of Boolean operators and phrases. Um, Marvin, there should just be some text. Is there not text on the screen? Marvin, not on yours. Debbie, there is on yours. Marvin, I don't have a quick solution to that. There should be my whole screen visible, the whole presentation. So, is anyone else encountering that? Are you just looking at me and admiring my handsomeness, or can you see the screen? Okay, Marvin, it looks like you might need to back out and come back in. Would be my guess. So anyway, we'll jump back to that. The goal of your backup dancers is to create the single search terms out of Boolean operators or phrases. In addition to that, being very specific of what you're looking for, and I'll explain what I mean by that. But a couple examples here of how you're going to see parentheses and quotations used is in example one, we're looking for software or .NET and developer or engineer. So you can see there are two different parentheses around that specific. Um, you've got software or .NET. So one of those two things has to occur in this search. Whether assuming I'm using this as a title search, right? Their title has to include software or .NET, and it has to include developer or engineer. But what we've done is we've created a single search term of developer or engineer being an instance and software or .NET being a single instance. And I've got both of those grouped into an additional parenthesis. And this is what we call nesting to create a single search term. So if I was looking at titles, all of that would be a single title term that we're looking for. But it's now inclusive to search for all of those things. Human resources and employee relations. What I've now done is taken two phrases. This is a role that our team recently worked on. I've taken two phrases and I'm saying I need this exact phrase to appear: human resources and employee relations. Um, if I were just to put human resources and employee relations with no quotation marks, it would return an error. What it would be looking for is resources and employee, which could result in the search that you're looking for, but likely going to pull other things as well. So creating that single search term of human resources and that single search term of employee relations. The next example here, we're looking at financial service representative, again, as a title search here, not banker or loan officer. So I've now taken three words and created a single search term. I've taken two words and created a single search term. And you can see how I'm missing a parenthesis there at the end. That's my apologies. But you can see how I'm creating single search terms, looping together parentheses, quotation marks to essentially create a variable. So if you're going back to PEMDAS, right, and you break down an equation using variables a plus y equals z, that's what I'm doing. Financial service representative now became X, to single term. So Satish, yes, PEMDAS is the math equation, and Patricia, yes, it is math without the numbers. So PEMDAS is to explain the order of operations, that everything in parentheses is going to be handled first to make sure that those are accounted for. Quotations is the exponent, the e equivalent, to make sure that those get turned into single terms, and then the MDAS is really all just one. This is just the acronym that I learned growing up, but now you're looking at progressing left to right in your search, making sure that all of those things are true or not true depending on what you're telling it to look for, right? So the not down below being not banker or loan officer, neither of those titles would fit here. And so it would make sure that financial representative is included. Maybe I'm looking for a manager that has worked in credit union, and so that we're using credit union terms, financial service representative, and we're removing that loan officer, banker, from more of the corporate banks. But that's really what we're doing here. Um, the last thing that quotations do, I don't have illustrated on this slide, is you limit branching. And so if I were to put, for example, developer as a single search, or if I were to put bank as a single search, we'll use bank. If I just put bank with no quotations, what I'm allowing my search engine to do, whether that's LinkedIn or Google or Seek Out or whatever tool you're using, bank is now able to branch to banking, banker, banked. Maybe they say, oh, I'm a member and I banked with so and so. All of that will return in your search. But if I put it in quotes, I've now created a single search term of banker. It's no longer bank variations. So that's the purpose of your backup dancers. So if you take your main operators and not an or, and you include your backup dancers, you now have a full production of search capabilities. So that being said, do we have any questions about Boolean before we take what we've learned about Boolean and we apply it into LinkedIn Recruiter? We'll give you guys a minute if you need to type anything. Um, but I want to make sure that we understand how Boolean works before we dive in how to use it. All right, looks like we might have a question coming in. I'll hang tight and then we will proceed. Okay. So I'm going to assume that everybody on the webinar right now understands those fundamental Boolean aspects. So we're going to dive in how to use LinkedIn Recruiter and a couple different tricks there to catch the low-hanging fruit, how to be inclusive in your searches, and some tips and tricks of what works best versus what does not. So here's your LinkedIn Recruiter basics. Anybody who has LinkedIn Recruiter, if you sign in, you start a new search. Everything you see in the first two images is going to be what generates in your vanilla search term options on the left-hand side of your screen. You're gonna have your search history, save searches, custom filters. If you dive into that, we're not going to do that today. Um, then you've got your job title, location, workplace types, skills and assessments, so on. Right. Um, this is your vanilla LinkedIn Recruiter basics. This is essentially what LinkedIn is saying. We feel this is the most important filters that you can have, the most important search boxes. They're going to try and drive you to do this. A couple notes here. We've got our keynotes. Bubbles operate as or statements. What I mean by that is if I go to the job title section, and let's say I'm looking for a software developer, if I put software developer, I've now created a bubble. And if I then put in software engineer, I've created another bubble, right? And I can get rid of those. I can remove them. I can keep adding. They operate as or statements. So it would be the same as building a Boolean string and using a massive chain of or statements. This is where you can get creative in using loose terms if you don't want to write out the Boolean equation. Um, using loose terms like developer, engineer, um, architect, whatever you're looking for, and listing just a base level of what that might be rather than the specialized ahead of ahead of that allows for loose inclusive searching. Second, keywords and the search the whole profile. This is a common mistake I see. People will be like, "Hey, I need someone with this skill. I need them to be a C#.NET developer, or I need someone that specializes in employee relations." And so they'll put that in the skills and assessments because it's saying I'm looking for skill keywords anywhere on the profile. That's a lie. It's not looking anywhere on the profile. What it's looking at is the skills section on a LinkedIn profile. So unless they listed employee relations specifically in that box, uh, it's not going to generate. Instead, you're going to want to look keywords because that looks at the entire profile versus just the skills or assessments sections. And then last, advanced search is going to be your best friend because you're going to learn really quickly that your options you have here, while most of them are good and useful, there are better options in your advanced searches. So here's your advanced search fields. We're going to cover all of them real briefly, and then we're going to look at the ones that are most useful. So your advanced search fields, you've got candidate details, anything that's going to be specific to think like person living, right? Spoken languages, first name, last name, network relationships, if you're looking specifically in your network, profile languages, if people have their profiles in multiple languages, or you're looking for someone that speaks a very specific language and isn't going to have that listed in their spoken languages, you can look for it in their profile languages. Recently joined LinkedIn. This is some of your low hanging fruit. If you are using LinkedIn Recruiter and you are trying to find those that are likely to change jobs, um, people are going to respond quickly to your emails, go to recently join LinkedIn. It'll give you a couple different options. You can look for people who joined that day. You can look for people who have joined in the last week, in the last 30 days, 90 days, etc. Think about the purpose of LinkedIn. Most people who are not in the recruiting space, they see LinkedIn as a job search functionality rather than necessarily a social network. Um, so if they've recently created a LinkedIn, they're likely looking for a job. So put in all of your search parameters. Go to recently join LinkedIn within the last 30 days. You know that they're new in the job search process. That's likely why they created a LinkedIn profile. Low hanging fruit. Education and experience is the next section. Years of experience is going to be really important. We're going to dive into that in a little bit. Years in current company can be highly effective as well. And years in current position can be effective if you're needing somebody who has fulfilled a specific role for a while. It can be very limiting. Military veterans, field of study, degrees, seniority. These are all going to be case by case specifics as to what you're looking for. Those first three are going to be the most important ones that you're looking at, or most, I shouldn't say most important, the most frequent ones you're going to be looking at. To continue our advanced search fields, and to access this, I don't know if I made this clear. On the left-hand side of your search, new search page, all the way down at the bottom, there's a blue letters, and it says advanced search. This is where you're going to go to access these. The next section is going to be company. Again, can be particularly useful. This is probably the one I use the least. Actually, I use this one more than recruiting and candidate activity, but company, looking for people who have been in the industry, or you're looking to poach someone from a competitor. This is where you're going to come from. Company sizes. I've recently worked on um, roles where they needed to be coming from large companies, working on huge data sets. Company sizes there is going to be very important. Um, Again, advanced search filters, and then recruiting and candidate activity. If LinkedIn Recruiter connects with your ATS, that functionality has been approved internally. This can be particularly useful. Otherwise, you can ignore it altogether. Although recruiting activity itself is useful if you're using LinkedIn Recruiter as a project management tool and collaborating on projects there. So first case here, specifying location. This is something that X-Ray can struggle to do. Seek Out is a sourcing tool, does really, really well, but LinkedIn likes to hide this from you. So in your locations, your vanilla searches, you're going to have options to enter a city. You can't enter a state. It doesn't work. It likes to fight back. The first way to be inclusive is to, if you can, include a general area, right? The greater Seattle area rather than Seattle. Greater Seattle area will include all profiles that list either Seattle, Washington, or greater Seattle area. Um, it also likes to just throw a dart and say anybody within, I think it's 10 miles or 20 miles, something like that around the area. But if you're working on hybrid roles or you're working on remote roles, they have to be in the state. Maybe they're not going to be that close, right? I live about 24 miles out of Columbia, South Carolina. I intentionally did not list on my profile that I'm in the Columbia metropolitan area because I didn't want to be bothered by people who are looking at the Columbia metropolitan area. However, if I were to go into my recruiter advanced search, where you can see the arrow that says better, you can put in a postal code. So if you know your postal code of the area you're looking for, I would hope that you do. Um, you can then give within 25 miles or increase it, right? If this is a hybrid role that they're working on, they'd have to be in the office maybe once or twice a month, or they have to be able to get into the office if there's an emergency. This is now your best friend. You can put a postal code and you can expand the area or contract it, and you're going to have a more precise geographical search than throwing it into the locations piece because LinkedIn likes to try and do your job for you, and it'll try and tell you how to do your job, right? So this is a LinkedIn recruiter functionality. Specifying years of experience. This is really two ways of doing it. You can specify the experience based on the years of experience in your advanced search. It gives you a range of of 0 to 30 years. This is helpful, but it also bases it off of their most recent graduation date, generally speaking. Not always, but generally speaking. And so if I'm looking for someone with 13 years of experience, um, I'm not going to pick up somebody who worked for 7 years and then they decided, you know what, I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to get my master's degree and then I'm going to re-enter the workforce. It's going to pick up that master's degree. Let's say they graduated in 2019. They've been working for 4 years afterwards, right? It's going to give their years of experience to that most recent graduation date. I know LinkedIn is aware of this, and I've been told that they're working on this, but I don't have any promises there. The other option you have is year of graduation. If you're looking for somebody that is looking for, if you're looking for somebody that has X amount of years of experience, you can go to years of graduation. However, something similar happens. Uh, you know, it's pulling from their most recent degree 90% of the time. So both of these have good functionalities. They're going to help narrow your searches, especially as you're starting and you're trying to get as tight of a scope of a search as you can. I've got a couple things to keep in mind up on the screen here. Not everyone lists their entire work history, um, and not everybody is going to be specific about years or time spent there. You've probably seen this yourself. You're looking at a profile and it just says they've worked at X company, and it doesn't have a start date, doesn't have an end date. It's just on their work history somewhere. Um, or you look at somebody and without feeling too judgmental, you see 5 6 years of work history, and you look at them and you're like, I'm pretty sure that you've been in the workforce for more than 5 or 6 years. Based on some visual appearance cues, they're only going to show up in that 5 to that 0 to 10 years of experience, even though they likely have more experience that they're letting on. Other thing to keep in mind is year of graduation biases. If you're basing years of experience off of graduation, and LinkedIn will do this as well, unless they don't have a degree listed, then it just bases off of work history. But a year of graduation bias is that you're now searching for anyone that has a degree, and you're creating an inherent bias in your search that you may not want to be engaging in as a talent organization. So keep that in mind. And then again, the degree anchor variability. You're looking at multiple options here of what degree is it actually pulling from? How is it basing years of experience? However, both of these are highly useful tools when necessary. And then company searches. This is something I learned about a year ago that blew my mind. Each company has a designated numeric value in the URL based in LinkedIn's data system, right? So bubbles, if you're looking for companies and you're just putting in some competitors into your search bar, your search engine options on LinkedIn Recruiter, for a person to generate in that search, they have to have their account tied to that company, right? So if you were to go to my LinkedIn profile and you were to scroll down, you see BECU. You can click BECU and it'll take you to BECU's LinkedIn page. Unless that connection is there, these people won't pop up, right? So that's your biggest problem with bubbles. Um, and the reason it does that is because when you put in the bubble, what you're telling LinkedIn is, I need someone that comes from this particular numeric value in LinkedIn, right? And so I've got that illustrated down below. If you go, this is how you find it. If you go to BECU's page, um, you should follow and look for job openings. But if you go to BECU's page, down at the bottom of the screen, what you'll see is there's 2,289 employees. That is a hyperlink. You can click that and you can see everybody that works at BECU that has noted so on their LinkedIn profile, right? When you do that, up at the very top of your screen in the URL bar, you're going to see linkedin.com/search results, search/results/people. And then you're going to see this question mark, current company equals percentage, a number, and then you're going to have a number in quotes. So in LinkedIn, BECU's numeric value or numeric identification is 13985. Um, so the way to get around this is to not use the bubbles. People misspell. People will list who their employer is and not link it. Um, and you're going to miss out on those people if you're relying on the bubbles. And so this is where building a Boolean string, particularly an OR statement, is going to be useful. So you're going. This is your solution. Use your OR statements. Put together a string of companies that you're trying to pull from, and break them up using OR statements. If you don't have that list ready, use ChatGPT. I'm sure you've heard of it. This is a great resource. Go into ChatGPT, say, "Hey, I need X companies. I need credit unions in the Pacific Northwest," and it'll pull up credit unions in the Pacific Northwest. You say, "Now turn all of those companies into an OR statement for a Boolean search," and it'll put that in a Boolean string for you, and you can go and drop that in the Boolean section rather than using the bubbles. Um, Super useful. It helps you get around a lot of the errors that you run into with bubble searching. And you're essentially you're opening the door. You're being more inclusive. Once you have those lists built, if that's something you're going to reference regularly, build a repository or a spreadsheet where you keep all of these things that you can just copy paste. It's going to save you a ton of time. You don't have to go and recreate it every time. But that's going to be uh, super valuable if you're pulling from competitors or you need a companies in an industry, because the industry function on LinkedIn does not work super well. If LinkedIn doesn't have them programmed as a particular industry, they're never going to show up. So if I'm trying to pull people from companies that do a certain skill or they use a certain software that I need that experience, building that list, going to Google and saying, "Hey, I need this list of companies that do these things," putting it into an OR statement, and then including that into your company search is going to be far more effective than relying on bubbles and trying to recreate that every time. It's going to save you a ton of time. Eric, you've got a question there. Do you recommend doing this in the company search bar or the keyword search? Great question. You can do this in either one. If I'm doing it in the company section, it's going to look specifically at who I've got marked as employers. If you put it in the keyword section, it will do the same thing, but it'll also look at the context or the context of the profile. And so if I was a sales guy and I said, "Oh, I sold stuff to Microsoft, Apple, Google, whatnot, but I've only worked for a small sales firm," they're going to come back in your search because they have the right keywords that match the companies. If I was looking to pull somebody from Google or Apple or Amazon or any of those big companies, you're playing with a double-edged sword. So if you're looking specifically at companies, I recommend using the company function. Um, if you're looking at it really anything else, using the keyword works just fine. All right. So questions. Do we have any questions about LinkedIn Recruiter? Because what we're going to do next is we're going to dive into practice. So if you have any questions, get them out now so that we can talk about it, flesh it out, and then we're going to dive into some practice. Character or word limits to the searches. There are. I don't have the specific number. Um, yeah, I've run into this. The way to get around this is essentially to save filters, save searches, run it in batches. Um, it gets tricky once you start diving into that. We're not going to be doing that a ton, or we're actually not going to be diving into that today. But there are limits, and then it also depends on what level of LinkedIn you have. If you've got Sales Navigator or LinkedIn Premium, you've got shorter and shorter character limits and term limits that you can search for. What'll end up happening if you have LinkedIn Premium or Sales Navigator and you're building a search and you've exceeded the search limit, it's going to tell you that there's no search results, and that's a lie because you've built a good string and you don't have anything wrong in your search. Um, with LinkedIn Recruiter, it's pretty robust. I put together a list of regional banks in Washington back in April, and I couldn't tell you how many I got up to before it told me that it couldn't handle it anymore. I want to say it was close to about 90 different either regional banks or credit unions before it said I couldn't add more. But um, yeah, Summer, can I show a Chat GPT example? Are you wanting to see how to build the Boolean string? Sure. Yeah, I can dive into that. We are going to get into practice. So let's Summer, do you have a role that you're actively working on that we could use an example and we can run with this? All right. Summer, what is the role that you're working on? Civil structural engineer in Englewood, California. Great. So this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna practice here. Open AI, Chat GPT, and we are in GPT-3. Okay. So civil engineering. Summer. I don't know California geography super well. Where is Englewood? Are we talking Central California, Northern, Southern? Prachi, I know you're in California. If you want to help me out there too, that would work just fine. It's in LA. Okay. Um, round Los Angeles. Los Angeles. Is it ES? I think so. We're gonna find out. Spelling is not my strong suit, guys. Okay. So we've got 10 companies here. This is really what I would be doing if this was my search. Um, okay, wonderful. So now I'll say take those companies and turn them into one or statement uh, formatted in a Boolean search. Wonderful. So oh, slow down, Chat GPT. You're giving me more than I need. Okay. So what I would do is I would then come copy this list. Now I'm going to go to LinkedIn. Oh, I needed to go to Recruiter. That's my bad. Let's go to Recruiter. Welcome to my Boeing account. We're going to start a new search. Okay. So if I'm looking job titles, somewhere where we're looking for a civil engineer, um, right? Civil engineer, civil structural engineer. Okay. So what I'm going to do is put civil and engineer in my job titles. So I need both of those to occur. I don't want software engineer. Why are senior civil engineer? I'm getting the wrong ones here. All right. We will, let's see, companies. I'll put in my company search there. So I just pasted, copied and pasted. That's all that we're seeing here. So now we're looking at civil engineers, um, right? That work for these companies. I've probably got it as current or past. Yep. So current or past. This is going to help me find civil engineers. Again, being inclusive. Maybe they work for one of these companies. I'm sure there's more than 10 companies in the LA area that do civil engineering. But current or past, we've got civil and engineer occurring. It's still pulling it as an or statement. We're just going to have fun with this. We're going to use our bubbles here, civil engineer, and we're going to do structural engineer. Location. So I could put the greater Los Angeles area. Summer, is this a hybrid role? I'm assuming they probably have to be in LA a couple days a week. Okay. So what we're going to do. Does anyone want to give me the uh, zip code for LA? Does anyone know it off a zip code in LA? Really, Bob? 90000. Do I have too many zeros? 9001. There we go. Los Angeles. Oh, maybe. There we go. Within 25 miles, assuming this is hybrid roll, they're going to be in the area. 25 miles is probably quite a drive in some of that traffic. So we'll uh, leave it at 25 miles. Summer, how many years of experience do they need? Is this a entry level civil engineer? Are we looking senior? 5 years. Okay, so we're going to go to the years of experience here. We want them to have at least 5. I always go 1 year below, just to pick up those people that are at 4 years and 11 months that are essentially at 5. Um, Assuming you're looking for somebody with 5, I'm going to cap it at about 10 years of experience, 10 or 11, for finding people that are probably within our pay range. So 4 to 10 years, again, for just to pick up those that are hitting the 5 years. For likelihood of moving, there's a couple different scenarios you could do here. Years in current company is one that philosophically I believe in. Just about everyone will give a company about a year before they decide if it's somewhere they want to stay or not. So you could go years in company and add a minimum of 1 year. If they've been there for over 10 years, not likely to move. This isn't entirely just based on my experience. People can have other data. I'm not here to say that this is the way to do it, but we're going to do it for now. Um, let's see. We've got our postal code. Um, I'm assuming being a civil engineer, they probably need a degree. Okay. A degree, a bachelor's degree is fine. Okay. We'll go with a bachelor's degree. We'll also include Bachelor of Engineering and Bachelor of Science. Again, just trying to be inclusive. I could also just type in bachelor's or bachelor, I should say, and that'll pull what we're looking for. Um, this is where you could play with the year of graduation for years of experience as well. We'll run both searches side by side. Um, Wonderful. So we'll run our search. Keep in mind the first search in your sourcing endeavor should be a really tight search. So 27 results is great. I can easily look at 27 results in in an hour or less and really dive into their profiles and look at their stuff. If I'm cruising, I already know what I'm looking at. I could be even faster. 30 minutes or less. But what we'd be looking for here at this point, Summer, you had mentioned they needed specific experience, right? They needed gas processing facility design experience. Okay. Are there any particular tools or softwares that somebody might be using as a structural or civil engineer to do that job? MathCAD. Okay. So then I'd come up to my keywords. I'd put in MathCAD. Oh, not match. MathCAD. 0. That's not good. That's not what we're looking for. Um, so again, this could be a use for civil engineering and say, uh, what are some math CAD alternatives? Figure out what my market looks like. Okay. Uh, please, I tell Chat GPT please all the time, guys. I am a firm believer that I need to be nice to AI so that it remembers I was kind when it takes over the world. Um, Wonderful. So I would copy this. I'm just trying to see what the market is out there. 27 results I could just flip through. But we're going to take MathCAD out. We're going to enter this. And I'm also going to include or MathCAD. I don't know structural engineering at all, so this could be totally off, Summer, and I apologize. 9 results. Great. So now I have a great starting point. Looking very specifically at companies currently working at or worked for that I would know are um, that makes sense to be basing a search off of. Put in my keywords. Try to be inclusive, right? Using those or statements. Um, our job titles of civil engineer, structural engineer. This could be played with and have a lot of fun. But now we've got 9 results. really specific. Start looking at the profiles, figure out what are you seeing that's consistent, what are you seeing that's either consistently there or consistently missing. Um, and from that point, tweak your search, take your data, have your conversation with your hiring manager, and say, hey, this is what I'm seeing. Are these things translatable? Can I use MATLAB instead of MathCAD? Do we have to have the specific, the specific degree if it's applicable, things like that. But this is how how you use LinkedIn Recruiter at a really high level. And from this point, the goal is to expand your search. So figure out things that you can be inclusive on, restrictions that you can loosen up. Um, excuse me, I'm battling bronchitis again, I think. Um, so years of experience, we're going to change years of experience. We're going to increase it to 16. We'll add 5 years, and now we're at 23 results. Um, so what we can now do is take this to our hiring managers and say, hey, this is the market we're looking at. We might end up having to pay a little bit more to get somebody that's a little bit more experienced in what we're looking for. But yes, that is LinkedIn Recruiter at a really high level. Does anyone have another role that they would like to quickly run through? Um, Again, at a really high level, or any other questions? A physician recruiter? Alyssa, is this a recruiter that only recruits physicians, doctors, etc.? Yes, in the Houston area. Ellen, we're going to go with Alyssa's because it was in there just a little earlier. I'd be happy to connect you and I another time, though, and go over regional sales manager, milking equipment in the Midwest. Um, we can talk about that another time. So we're going to dive into a physician recruiter. So we're going to come clear our search. Job titles, we're looking for recruiter. Again, I'm going to use the bubbles. I want to show how they work. We're also going to look for talent acquisition. We'll just use talent as a loose word. So any title that contains talent can fall within here. Alyssa, if you want to give me some details, years of experience. I know you said Houston. Do they have to be in Houston or anywhere in Texas? Behavioral health. Prefer in Houston. Okay. Then we will base it in Houston. Alyssa, do you know off the top of your head what Houston's area code is? Actually, we're gonna use the location one here, and we're gonna illustrate the other way that you can do this. So, Greater Houston. I want to make sure that we're catering to every type of search here. So, Greater Houston is our location. Um, Companies. I mean, probably not the way that we're wanting to run with that. Years of experience. Behavioral health. All right, we're going to come back to Chat GPT and have it be friendly for us. I keep leaving that T off of formatted. I went to college, guys. I promise. Okay. So we'd start here. I just right off the bat, I would be looking at um, additional ways. It should have put quotations around behavioral health. So you can see ChatGPT is flawed. It does make mistakes. So do I, though. So I'll give it some grace. Again, I want AI to remember that I was kind to it before it takes over the world. Behavioral health. We'll run the search, but I would also put in gynecologist as well. Keywords. All right. Just looking at a title of recruiter or talent, we and those specific keywords. We've got a real tight search at 38 results. Um, Alyssa, did you have years of experience that they have to have? Are we looking senior, junior? What level of recruiter are we looking at? 5 to 7 ish. So we're looking mid level. Um, is a degree a requirement? Please tell me no. Okay, thank you. Years of experience. Is 5 to 7 based on salary availability, or is that based on things they will have accomplished as a recruiter or talent acquisition specialist in 5 to 7 years? Okay, wonderful. We're going to go 4 to 8. Again, I like to be at least 1 year outside of the window for inclusive searching. And now we're down to three results. So you can see that drop off of those recruiters or talent acquisition specialists that have been in that industry or have noted explicitly that they're in that industry is more on that senior end. You're looking 8 plus years. And that would instantly be talent market intelligence I would take to the hiring manager, if that's not you yourself already, or take to your compensation team and say, hey, this is what I'm seeing, just an early search. I've got 3 results if I'm looking within that 4 to 8 years. Because if I were to edit this, um, it looks like that 9 years is where the biggest peak is. So if we go 11, you open it up, couple more years, you've now quadrupled your search results. You're likely going to be paying for that experience as well, but that's helpful information to have. But yeah, again, LinkedIn Recruiter at a super high level, or statements are your best friend. And statements are important, not statements are important. However, those or statements are going to be your best friend in helping build inclusive searches, broadening the scope of your horizons. Hopefully, you all understand how Boolean works, how it helps your searches, how the bubbles interact and translate to Boolean, and hopefully there have been some really good insights for you. We will jump back into the slideshow to end things off. This is my favorite slide. It's in every single presentation that I have. Being Aquaman or having that title, I have to go. My fish need me. I don't have any fish. I travel too much to take care of fish. But it's my favorite slide. It goes in every presentation. Thank you everybody for coming. We've got just a couple minutes. I'll hang out, answer questions that anyone else might have. Here's my contact information. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn if we're not already connected. Send me an email if you have any questions, if you want to connect over specific roles afterwards. But I really need to update that picture as well. I don't have that long of hair. I had that long hair for quite a while. Um, but I'm back to business cut and enjoy it a whole lot more. Thanks, Eric. You to Aquaman. Thank you everybody for coming. Again, I'll hang out if anyone has any questions. I'm more than happy to answer that, give my input. But that is the presentation for today. Recording will be sent out as soon as it's available. And to my BECU team, you guys are great. Thanks for coming today.